Good morning, everyone. My name is Ijeoma from Lagos, Nigeria. I flew in on Sunday, approximately 17 hours to get here. This is my first time in Berlin and my first international speaking engagement, so I'm so excited to be here. But unfortunately, my co-speaker will not be able to make it, but you'll be hearing from her during the session. So today we'll be talking about tokenism in open source. Is it diversity or decoration? So over the years, we've seen tremendous efforts that has been put into promoting diversity in the open source space. We've seen projects, initiatives, programs that have been adopted. We have programs like Outreachy, Anna. They are doing an amazing work in getting more females to contribute to open source projects, getting people from underrepresented regions from the global south, where I come from, to contribute to open source, and they are doing really, really good in that front. We have other initiatives like the Chaos Matrix. We also have the Inclusive Naming Initiative by the Linux Foundation as well, trying to get rid of not so inclusive languages. And yeah, they are doing amazing as well. So, but then there is always room for improvement, right? There is always room for new initiatives, always room for more. So let's quickly look at the agenda for today. So today we'll be talking briefly about what tokenism is all about, what does it look like, some instances of it, because sometimes if you don't know what this is or what tokenism is, you may not really know when it's being played out in your project or in your organization. So, but when you know what it looks like or examples of it, you can easily say, okay, this is tokenism right here. So also going to be talking about cost of tokenism in open source, how does it affect open source projects? Not just the project maintainers, and most importantly, the contributors as well. And we're also going to be iterating why diversity matter in the open source space and actions some projects can take to keep promoting diversity in the space, and we'll be concluding in a few words. So I'm going to hand over to my co-speaker now. So I'm going to play her video since she's not able to join us. So enjoy. Okay.
All right, awesome. So, hello everybody, and wow, thank you all for coming by to listen to our talk. It means so much. I am very, very excited to be joining us virtually in Germany, Berlin. It's really, really nice to be back again virtually. All right. So today we'll be talking about tokenism in open source. Is it diversity or decoration? And based on what we've heard, my co-speaker, share with us, and also how the agenda is going to look like, I am just going to dive right into it, right? So, great. So, but before I go there, a little bit about myself. I'm a community architect, a D&B advocate, a project manager for Contributor Covenant. Stay tuned for the version 3. It's coming up very soon. Then I am also a member of the Code of Conduct Committee at Chaos, and I also lead the tour guide initiative at Chaos as well. I am an individual contributor for Inner Source Commons Foundation, and lastly, I'm an anime fan girl. I am a huge lover of the Japanese culture, and I hope to visit there someday. So we're just going to go right into it now. So first, what is tokenism, right? It's really important for us to, define this so that we have a little bit of understanding of what we're trying to achieve with our conversation today. So tokenism refers to the practice of including individuals from certain groups solely to give the appearance of diversity rather than fostering genuine inclusion. And, in case you haven't noticed it yet, it is an issue in the open source community ecosystem. This is something I have noticed, and I guess some of us have as well, right? And this particularly raises the question about whether diversity initiatives are genuinely inclusive or are they mainly decorative, right? And because while diversity, is often championed as a priority in open source, tokenism risks undermining these beautiful and lovely efforts of diversity by creating superficial representation of inclusion without addressing systematic inequalities, which is very, very important that, before we start saying that we are truly diverse and inclusive, we really need to get to the root causes of that. But we'll be looking more at this today, and hopefully our goal is that at the end of this conversation, we all feel challenged to go back to really have like a retrospective on how we've really been putting out diversity initiatives and pretty much what we can start doing better. So moving on, we are going to be looking at some manifestation of tokenism in open source. So we have now known what tokenism is, but what does it look like? How does it take shape? How does it take form within our respective communities, right? So the first thing we have here is figurative contribution. In this instance, a project, a project might include diverse contributors within their marketing materials without providing a pathway to leadership or decision-making power within the project. And we all know that having to make real change comes with having real power. And when people don't have that power, they are unable to, effect change within a particular space. And while there is no data that is currently available to sort of like back this up, because again, there is a lot we do not track in the ecosystem. But this can be observed in how projects present themselves publicly versus the internal dynamics of that particular project. And I bet some of us must have noticed this or observed this in some of the projects we are involved in or even leading. Okay. So the next is lack of inclusive practices. So in this instance, projects might not implement policies that genuinely support and retain diverse contributors, such as addressing biases in code reviews. And now, while this has reduced, there have been cases, or we've seen in the past, instances of pull requests from non-Westerners not being approved. Or enforcing a code of conduct. So I'm a huge fan of projects, having guidelines. It's very, very, very necessary, right, for open source projects to have some sort of rules and guidelines that govern that particular project. But whilst adopting code of conduct is, a priority or one of the written rules of an open source project, it also feels like projects and community just adopt them and put no measures, put no effort or structures in place to enforce them, which isn't good for both the projects and also the contributors. And we really can't see why. Or we would probably see why in the coming slide as well as we progress into this conversation. And last would be ensuring accessible documentation. Open source projects have seen great progress, when it comes to the ease or to understand documentation. But to be honest, I don't think we are 70% there yet, right? Recently, I let me tell this story. Recently, I wanted to read an article, and I was going to also do something else, and I wanted to listen in and not read it out by myself, right? And only for me to find out that the text to speech feature that this particular platform has is heavily paid for. And it got me thinking. If this were a person who have a hearing disability and not financially stable, what exactly would they do in this scenario? How will this platform support, their disability and enable them access these particular resources that would have probably been very beneficial to their career development, right? Then another scenario would be recently I was having a conversation with a friend who happens to manage a particular AI project, and he reached out to a particular community member who used to be very active but stopped being active, right? So he reached out to them, and this person was like, "Hey, nobody knows this yet, but I'm going deaf. And because of that, I won't be able to participate in the community meetings and a lot of the activities." And sorry about that. And it got me thinking really, like, who is really looking out for these people? How are we as a collective making sure that people like this are well included, right, within our projects, right? How are we supporting these people, right? Are projects intentionally conducting accessibility audits on their website? That is one. On their documentations, on their softwares, do people genuinely care, or are we all screaming DI without doing the real work, right? I could go on and on and on and on to share more instances of this, but because of time, let's quickly look at the cost of tokenism. Okay. All right. So cost of tokenism. I have here a few things listed out, and some of my favorite quotes, or some quotes I found really interesting, and I would really like for us to see as well. So the first would be burnout. Tokenized contributors are more likely to face isolation, microaggression, and pressure to represent their entire identity group within an open source project, which can be very frustrating and can lead to a contributor being unhappy and being sad about the work that they're doing within a certain open source project. There's also the avoidance by marginalized group. There is a certain study that says 40% of people of different sex and gender developers avoid projects without enforced codes of conduct. So remember what we were talking about a few seconds ago, about code of conduct. So it's really not enough to adapt a code of conduct. Please do set structures in place to enforce this code of conduct as well. There is also the cost of homogeneous solutions. So when it's really like a particular group, solutions and ideas are being put out to the world. I mean, we say we are building for the ecosystem, we're building for global users. How inclusive is it? I remember this particular incident many years ago, but I feel like it's still relevant now, where I really do not want to call names, but a certain brand started had a feature, a motion sensor feature in their device. It's a laptop brand, right? Let's keep it at that. And it happens to be that when a Black person tried to move their body, to for the sensor to pick their motion and move along with it, it doesn't work. But when a white person came and moved their face and the sensor keep following them towards any direction that they go to. And it could just show how, some of these tools are, not inclusive, right? There's a particular word for it, but I would try not to say it here. But it just shows how long that it will really take for us to get to the point of equality and real and genuine diversity within the tech ecosystem and even the open source ecosystem as well. High turnover. Minority groups are more likely to leave a project they feel undervalued for their efforts. So we see this happen really. People would love to contribute to open source project, but when the efforts they put into it are not being recognized, right, and that could be some sort of display of tokenism, whether it is known or unknown to the project, right? It's just a thing, and it could really discourage people from the minority group to want to contribute to that particular open source project. And to the quote, this one says, there are a ton of projects where it's hard to make an impact unless you are in a group of core maintainers. And oftentimes, core maintainers fit one demographic. And this is from a survey respondent from the 2021 Linux Foundation DEI report. So I hope we are seeing the problems, right? When a particular demographic at the one in power, having certain decision-making position, it's really, really difficult for one to make real impact, especially if they are from a known minority group, right, or underrepresented community. And I like this other quote, and pretty much about how power. People with power must earn trust through what they do, and those who have less power, must have trust extended to them by default, right? And this is from Caroline, founder of the Organization for Ethical Source. And lastly is from Wikimedia, about how 9% of their editors worldwide are women, only 9%. And although 82% of the population that contributes are from the global south, only 21% of active contributors come from this part of the world. So you can really see that we still have a long way to go as a community, right? And we really hope that as we are done with this particular conversation, again, that we are challenged and we truly do the right things. With that being said, I'm going to be passing it on to my co-speaker now, Ijeoma Onwuka. And it was really nice chatting with everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session. And bye.
Thank you so much, Maryblessing. So, okay, we'll be moving on to the next. Okay, so just a little bit intro about me. I'm a community program manager. I'm a DEI advocate, and I'm a Chaos DEI badging reviewer. I'm also a working group co-lead for DevRel Foundation, an open source project by the Linux Foundation. I'm also a project contributor for UNICEF Oki and OpenSSF, and I'm a K-drama and C-drama lover. So if you're a K-drama lover, please catch up with me later. So I'll be proceeding to talk about why does diversity matter. I mean, every day we talk about diversity in the space, and we don't get tired because it's important. And when something is important to you, you have to remind yourself always why it is important. I mean, there are people that contribute to open source because of diversity. people came, they joined some projects because when they joined, they felt seen, they felt heard. Someone like me, I contribute to open source because when I started contributing to open source, I started with Chaos. Chaos was my first open source project, and it was so beautiful. They welcomed me. I was able to make an impact, and up to today, I'm still contributing because of the welcoming culture that the project has given me. Same thing with OpenSSF. I started contributing last year, and I'm already doing a lot of work, so it's as if I came in, they gave me a space to be able to do work and contribute in my own capacity. So we have to keep preaching diversity to let people know that they can always find a space in any open source project they are interested in contributing to, regardless of their region, of their location, of their condition, whether they're living with a disability or not. There's always a room for you. And then we'll be looking at, I picked this image from Jennifer Reagan's article on why diversity matters, and it shows here more inclusion, more empathy, more productivity, complete and better thought out solutions. I believe we all know that already, what diversity has done for the open source space. So I'm going to be looking at some, will I call it, some comments from some of our favorite projects, the Linux Foundation, the Major League Hacking, and Mozilla. So according to a survey by the Linux Foundation, only 37% of survey respondents agree that there are clear processes to becoming a leader or a maintainer in open source projects. So yes, I'm going to be talking about that in the next slide as well. And furthermore, 22% of respondents agree that equal opportunity exists for people with different backgrounds to be part of the decision-making process in open source. It shows that we are really doing a lot of work. We are getting there slowly, little by little. And Major League Hacking also mentioned that the diversity of applicants spans multiple intersections of race, gender, and geographic location. So which makes it a melting pot of ideas, thoughts, and cultural backgrounds, giving us the opportunity to add to a more diverse work. And then the last but not the least, Mozilla saying that they are able to build a better internet that works for everyone because they've been able to welcome people from diverse regions, different experiences, to come together to build an internet that really works. So we're going to be looking at moving beyond decoration. So what steps can we take to make sure that all these efforts that we are putting in, that we do not leave out, or that we do not have Tokenism lying somewhere and undermining all the efforts we are actually putting in? So first, we'll look at representation in leadership. I always love to mention Dawn Foster in her own words. She said, people are more likely to contribute to an open source project when they see someone that looks like them on the board or just there. So I started contributing to OpenSSF when I got there, especially the DEI working group. I think we've changed the name to BEAR right now, belonging, equity, I've forgotten. So when I joined, I was the only Nigerian or African in that particular working group at that point. So, but it didn't matter to me because I'm interested in cybersecurity. So I joined and I started contributing. And for the past 6 months, I've had more people join because I keep talking about OpenSSF. And like, okay, we want to join. We want to see what they're doing in this project. And I have people joining every month. And when they join, I say, oh, please tag me so I'll welcome you. And when I welcome them, they feel more welcome. They join our meetings because, of course, I'm there and I'm always there to, remind them we're having a meeting now. Do you want to join? So it's very important to have representations as much as we can. And then design for all. That open source project you are designing, are you sure that it's inclusive? Are you sure that you have other people in mind? Are you sure that you have people living with disabilities, color blindness, deaf and dumb? How are we trying to make sure that all the projects we are designing, we keep them in mind? And then adopt and enforce code of conduct. A lot of times, a lot of open source projects adopt code of conduct because, yeah, you must. So, but when it comes to enforcement, what are we doing about it? Do you have laid out rules or guidelines that you actually follow? Let's say there is a conflict in your community. What are some of the rules? How are you showing people that, okay, this project or this code of conduct is not here just for fancy? We actually follow through. So how are you showing people that you actually following the code of conduct that you adopted? So enforcement is very, very important. We should always keep that in mind. Okay, right, clear and accessible documentation. Yeah, my co-speaker already mentioned we've done a lot of work when it comes to documentation. Yeah, in the past, there are some open source projects that didn't even have README. When you go to GitHub, nothing. You don't even know how to get started. You don't know where to join. But over the years, we've seen a lot of progress in that aspect, but then there's still room for more, right? And then provide stipend and funds. Yeah, there are a lot of projects that don't have funding. I'm contributing to a project right now. Before I came to Germany, we had a call and we are talking about pausing it for 6 months or 1 year because we don't have funding. And I'm just a volunteer. They're not paying me. But then because I need help and the people that need to help me need to get paid. So they are going to fund. And because I cannot take on the whole project, we are trying to build a developer community for a project. So it's really a lot of work. And then use of inclusive language is very, very important. We have the inclusive naming initiative by the Linux Foundation that has been doing a lot of work to change some words like man as to engineer as, so simple, your mother can do it, to user friendly, which of them, blacklist to deny list. They've been doing a lot of work and it's so beautiful to see. So we have the FAIR framework, which is more fairness, access, inclusion, representation. Because of time, I'm rushing. So, which was authored by Lily Zheng. So it's a good framework that we can always use to ask ourselves important questions. Our open source project, are they fair? Are they accessible? Are they inclusive? Are they fully represented? It's not enough to say, come and contribute, anybody can contribute. Do you tell people the best way they can contribute? I remember trying to contribute to a particular project and I went to their website. They wrote in details how you can contribute as a designer, as a developer, as an event manager, as a community manager. I didn't have to go back and start asking myself, how do I contribute to this project? It was already there. It's just for me to now bring myself, come in and say, okay, I want to do this for you people. I want to plan all the webinars. I want to design all the flyers, this and that. Okay, so it makes a lot of sense for people to easily jump right in and start contributing right away. It's very, very important. I mean, we are looking for more people to contribute. And then, of course, chaos. How can I forget chaos? We are doing a lot of amazing work with our initiatives, our DI metrics, our DI badging reviewing. I'm a reviewer. I review a lot of open source events each year. And we always encourage more conveners to submit because we want to make sure that event conveners are actually being inclusive like they claim. So you don't want to tell us you're inclusive, but when we come, we're not seeing anything you are doing. So we want to move beyond being performative to actually being proactive. So Chaos is doing an amazing work in that aspect. So if you have plans of hosting events in the future, please come to us. We're going to give you a badge as long as you follow the rules. Yes, the gold badge is yours. So, okay. So I'm trying to wrap up this conversation. So I'm going to go with going beyond tokenism requires shifting from traditional thinking to adapting ways of being and seeing value differently. Yes, we have to keep doing things differently. You know, we don't have, you want something to change and you keep doing the same thing. It doesn't work. You have to try out new things. So yeah, that's how it works. And I'm going to also say, please do not do DEI out of pity or because you just want to check a box. Think of DEI as giving opportunities to groups of people with great abilities that will otherwise not have access to that opportunity. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. I will be around if you have any questions or if you want to have more conversations around this, we can chat about that. And then if you also want to recommend some K-dramas and C-dramas to me, please, I'm looking for more dramas to add to my list. So thank you so much. Thank you.